My name is Lion, and I am 59 years old. Now I'm sitting in my house, drinking strong coffee and looking out the window. Tomorrow I will wake up, get out of bed as usual, make myself breakfast, and open my laptop to check my work emails. In a month, maybe I'll go south for a little change of scenery. In a year, if I want, I'll buy a new house, closer to the ocean. I have money, I have a career, I have stability. But damn it, there is no happiness. I could say that life turned out well. Good education, successful career as an engineer, stable income. When I was young, I worked tirelessly, made plans, and strived for a better future. Achieved goals. I always knew what I wanted. I was sure that there should be a woman next to me who would become my other half, with whom I would live a long, happy life. It seemed to me that I had found her. But now, sitting here, in the silence of my own home, I understand. Everything I believed in has collapsed. My love, my marriage, my hopes, they all turned into ruins. And if someone had told me many years ago that I would find myself in such a situation, I would not have believed it. But once upon a time, everything was different. I was born in a small town in the Midwest into a family steeped in traditional values and hard work. My father, George, was an engineer and worked for the same company his entire life, designing bridges and infrastructure projects. He was a man of strict rules, but fair, and from childhood he instilled in me a love of work, responsibility, and order. My mother, Margaret, worked as a nurse at a local hospital and saw other people's pain every day, so she always tried to surround me with care, making our home a place of comfort and peace. She taught me that the most important thing in life is family, supporting each other, and the ability to appreciate simple things. Our house was old but cozy, with a large backyard where I spent countless hours building imaginary forts, running with friends, and exploring the world. We had a small garden in which my mother grew flowers and vegetables, and my father helped me make wooden toys and construct simple mechanisms. Life flowed smoothly, there was no room for drama or shock, but this was precisely what created a feeling of security and stability, which I then took for granted, without even thinking about how important it was. My childhood passed in the world of numbers, diagrams, and drawings. My father often brought home work documents, and it was interesting for me to look at them, although at the time I understood little. Over time, I began to ask questions, and then draw something myself, at first just lines, then simple designs. I saw something magical in this, the ability to create things that could change the world. Sometimes my father allowed me to come to his work, and I watched with admiration as he interacted with his colleagues, as they built complex projects that then turned into bridges, roads, and buildings. This inspired me and strengthened my desire to follow in his footsteps. At school, I was not the star of the class, but I studied well. I was especially good at exact sciences, and my teachers predicted a career in the technical field. However, I also loved literature and history because through books you could immerse yourself in other worlds and learn stories that opened up new horizons. In high school, I finally realized that I wanted to become an engineer, but at the same time I tried to develop comprehensively, reading books, participating in scientific competitions, and even trying myself in sports. I liked solving complex problems, looking for answers where others saw only a dead end, and I found special pleasure in this. Youth was filled with hopes and ambitions. I dreamed of a big future. I wanted to go to a big city, make a career, and achieve success. I saw myself as a person who could build something meaningful, leave his mark on this world. I believed that life would follow a clearly planned route, that if you walked along it confidently, then no surprises could lead you astray. I had a clear plan in my head: graduate from university, find a prestigious job, build a family, and live the way my parents dreamed of in love, respect, and work. But then I didn't know that life doesn't like to follow plans. And the older I got, the more I realized that reality does not always correspond to expectations. However, it was this path that made me who I became. I remember that day as clearly as if it were yesterday. I was 23 years old, I was just starting my career, full of ambitions and plans for the future. But I couldn't even imagine how one meeting could turn everything upside down. It was a spring evening party in honor of my friend's birthday. I walked into a noisy living room filled with laughing people and just wanted to take a little break from everyday work, enjoy the frivolity of the holiday, and maybe drink a glass of good wine. The minute I noticed her, the world around me went dark. She stood by the window, tilting her head back slightly and smiling at someone I didn't know. The sunlight had not yet completely disappeared, and its last rays fell on her hair, giving it a soft golden hue. Olivia was graceful, with delicate features and deep eyes that seemed to glow with enthusiasm and sincerity. She was dressed in a light pastel-colored dress, and a silver bracelet glittered on her wrist. Her gestures were smooth and confident. There was a sense of lightness in her smile and inner freedom in her posture. This charm instantly caught my eye. I moved closer, wondering how to speak. We found ourselves opposite each other, and she looked at me with curiosity, as if asking, "Who are you and why are you looking like that?" Gathering all my courage, I smiled and said quietly, "I don't know who you are, but I think it's for this meeting that I'm here today." She laughed sincerely and naturally, as if it was the funniest compliment she had ever been given. Then, still smiling, she answered, "Wow, a bold statement. My name is Olivia. What's the name of the one who decided to say that?" I introduced myself and was a little embarrassed by my own directness, but she watched me with curiosity, and I realized that she was not put off by this. We got to talking. It turned out that she was a couple of years older than me, and her easy and cheerful manner of speaking was perfectly combined with her ability to listen and ask unexpected questions. I noticed in her a rare combination of intelligence and slight mischief, and this mixture was mesmerizing. Everything amazed me. How she laughed, how she furrowed her brow when she thought, how she swallowed her words when she was overwhelmed with emotions. Several hours flew by unnoticed, and suddenly I noticed that there was almost no one left in the room. The music died down, and the friend in whose honor the party was being held was in full swing saying goodbye to the guests. Olivia caught my eye, and I realized that she, too, was in no hurry to leave. Then I suggested taking a walk around the city at night. She nodded. "With pleasure. It's already stuffy here. Let's go out." We walked along the streets illuminated by lanterns, chatting about trifles and serious things mixed together. I couldn't get enough of her. The wind played with her hair. A slight blush appeared on her cheeks from the cool night air. Suddenly, she fell silent, and I noticed a shadow of some kind of indecision in her gaze. "Everything is fine?" I asked, trying to sound as soft as possible. Olivia smiled, but it was forced. "I really like you, but I have something important to say. I'm married." These words sounded like a bolt from the blue. I stopped, not knowing what to answer. She was older than me and even married. But why then are we here together? Why is she looking at me like that? "Married?" I asked again, trying to comprehend what I had heard. "Yes," Olivia confirmed quietly. "Our marriage has been bursting at the seams for a long time, but I still don't dare to put an end to it. You see, sometimes people get together because it's convenient or because they're afraid of loneliness, and then they find themselves trapped. I don't want to go into details, it's just, I haven't felt truly happy in a long time. And today, next to you, it's like I started breathing again." There was sincerity in her words, and I saw how hard it was for her to talk about it. I was faced with a choice: retreat before it was too late, or take the risk and continue with what was beginning to seem like my destiny. I took her hand. "I don't know what to say. I don't want to hurt you or anyone, but I can't pretend I didn't meet you." She squeezed my palm a little tighter and suddenly sighed with relief, as if she was afraid that I would leave now. We walked on in silence, and the city seemed to fall silent, giving us the opportunity to just be together. From this day, our story began, full of passion, hopes, and doubts. Olivia was in no hurry to make a decision, but we still saw each other almost every day. For the first time in my life, I felt what it means to live on the edge. On the one hand, euphoria from every moment spent next to her; on the other, the fear that one day it will all end. She talked a lot about her family, about how over time her relationship with her husband had lost its former warmth. I listened, I understood. but I didn't know how to help her other than to be there and love her as much as I could. We spent endless evenings talking about the future, Olivia admitted. Sometimes I dream of moving far, far away, starting all over again. Build a house by the sea or in the mountains, start a small coffee shop, write a book. Sounds naive, right? I smiled back at her. Sounds great, and I would like to be with you in this story. I looked at her and thought she was amazing. Olivia had a special outlook on life. She easily found beauty in little things. She could admire the evening sky or the poetry of an empty street. She read books that I had never even heard of, and she knew how to talk about their heroes in such a way that I began to believe that I myself had lived their destinies. And when she talked about her fears, there was a touching frankness in her voice, as if she was confessing to herself and not to me. I remember our first trip out of town. We were driving a car, and she dozed off, resting her head on my shoulder. I heard her even breathing and inhaled the scent of her hair with a hint of jasmine. When we got there, we were greeted by a wide field and a scarlet sunset. We were walking through the tall grass, and she suddenly laughed. Look, the sunset today is like when I was a child, when I thought the sun was setting into the sea. I hugged her shoulders. In my childhood, I also believed that somewhere there is the end of the earth, beyond which a fairy tale begins. We talked until dark, sharing memories and dreams, as if we had known each other all our lives. Then I finally realized that I had fallen in love. I fell in love irrevocably, to the point of trembling in my knees, and to the point of readiness to commit madness. Months passed, but the feeling did not weaken. I believed that we were made for each other. Of course, I was haunted by the thought of her marriage, but I forced myself not to think about the future. The happiness I felt next to her outweighed all my fears. However, one day I plucked up the courage to talk about what awaits us next. Olivia, this can't go on forever. I don't want to push, it's just. This is life, and you have to make choices in it. She lowered her eyes and fell silent for a few seconds. Then she said, "You are right. I myself understand that I am delaying. It pains me to know that someone might get hurt because of my decision. But I can't live in emptiness anymore. And with you, I feel like I can be happy again." Since then, I began to breathe hope. It seemed to me that a little more, and I would find that very true love that I dreamed of. I sincerely believed in our common future, like in a magic book where every page is filled with light. And despite all the shadows and doubts, I never stopped repeating to myself, I love her, and I'll be there no matter what happens. Then it seemed to me that nothing could really separate us, and even though we don't know how the circumstances will turn out, we have this feeling that illuminates the whole world around us. At that moment, I was ready to fight for our history, no matter how much strength it required. Olivia has finally put an end to the past. Her marriage is officially over. The divorce was long and difficult, full of disputes, unclear moments, and difficult decisions. But on the day the court finally confirmed it, she looked at me and smiled. Freedom, relief, and, most importantly, confidence in the future shone in her eyes. We knew this moment would come, we dreamed about it, we made plans, but when it actually came, I could not stop the trembling in my voice when I said, "Now you are truly free." She took my hand and whispered, "Free for us." These words are forever imprinted in my memory. A week after that, I did something I had been planning for a long time. We walked along the embankment in the evening, when the air was filled with the freshness of the surf, and the sunset painted the sky with warm shades of orange and purple. Waves lazily crashed against the wooden pilings of the pier, and seagulls circled over the water, breaking the silence with their piercing cries. I took her hand, felt the warmth of her fingers, looked into her eyes, and said, "Olivia, I can't imagine my life without you. You were my light, my support, my dream, and I want you to be by my side always. Will you marry me?" She froze for a moment, as if realizing that this moment had truly arrived. Her chest heaved with slight excitement, her lips trembled, and then stretched into a wide, happy smile. "Yes," she whispered, and then she laughed, hugging me so tightly as if she was afraid I would disappear. I felt her heart beating fast and realized that now we were truly bound together forever. Preparing for the wedding has become a new adventure, full of excitement and pleasant worries. Olivia wanted it to be simple but tasteful, and I wanted it to be an unforgettable day for her. We chose a small outdoor ceremony among friends and family in a cozy garden where the rose bushes exuded a sweet aroma and a slight anticipation of happiness was in the air. The day turned out to be cloudless, a light breeze played in her hair, and when she walked towards me in a snow-white dress with a slight shade of peach silk, I knew that I had never seen anything more beautiful. At that moment, the whole world ceased to exist. Only she and I remained, two people who finally found each other. When we exchanged vows, I promised her to always be there for her, to protect, to love, and to never give her a reason to doubt me. I spoke sincerely, without a doubt, realizing that now we are not just loved ones, but partners, two people who will have to go through all the trials of life together. She looked at me with such warmth that I realized, this is what I have been waiting for all my life. Her voice trembled with emotion as she uttered words that contained so much love, so much faith in us. The kiss that sealed our union was the beginning of a chapter in which there was no place for loneliness, doubts, and fears. We danced to music that sounded only to us, swaying smoothly to the beat of the melody, getting lost in each other. Friends raised toasts, laughed, and wished us a long and happy life. Someone played the guitar, someone told warm stories from our lives, and the stars above us shone brighter than usual, as if blessing our union. And I looked at her and knew this was the happiest day of my life. Her eyes reflected a future full of love, and I knew I didn't need anything more. Married life with Olivia was everything I dreamed of. Every morning began with her smile, with the smell of coffee, with light touches and warm kisses. We were happy, and it seemed that nothing could disturb this harmony. Olivia was not only my wife, but also my best friend, with whom I could laugh until I cried, dream about the future, and discuss everything in the world. We could sit cuddling on the couch for hours, watch old movies, argue about tastes, and then make peace in the heat of passion. There was always laughter in our house, and that was the most valuable thing. A year after the wedding, Olivia told me that she was expecting a child. This moment remained forever in my memory, her shining eyes, the slight excitement in her voice, how she put my hand on her stomach and whispered, "We will soon become parents." I felt a surge of happiness that I had never experienced before. At that second, I realized that our family would become even stronger, and that now we would have something more than just love, we would have a new life, our continuation. Olivia's pregnancy was a special time for us. I took care of her, surrounded her with attention, and fulfilled all her whims, even when at night I had to go for strawberries or roasted nuts. We read books together about raising children, chose a name, and imagined what our daughter would be like. We were looking forward to her appearance, preparing the nursery, arguing about which color would be more suitable, soft blue or soft cream. In the end, Olivia insisted on warm pastel colors, and I couldn't agree more because she always knew how to create coziness. When Emma was born, I first understood what boundless love means. Holding this tiny creature in my hands, seeing her tiny fingers, hearing her first cry, it was a miracle that cannot be described in words. I looked at Olivia, exhausted but happy, and realized that we now have the most valuable thing, our family. We looked at Emma and couldn't believe that we had created such a small, perfect life. Our intimate life with Olivia was as harmonious and natural as everything that happened between us. We have always been able to feel each other, capture each other's moods and desires, talk about what we like, what we want to try. It was not just a physical attraction, but a special intimacy where we could be sincere and vulnerable. Sometimes the nights became for us a time of frank conversations and experiments, and sometimes we fell asleep, hugging each other, without having time to think through the evening's fantasies to the end. Everything we did was imbued with tenderness and the desire to bring joy to each other. I remember Olivia once joked, "You know, we're probably the best lovers on our block." In our quarter, I retorted, feigning indignation. I would say, "Throughout the city." She burst out laughing, clinging to me, and a familiar light flashed in her eyes. This laughter, Her lightness and carelessness, all this only fueled my desire. Olivia loved to create a special atmosphere. She would light candles or turn on soft music. We would open a bottle of wine, sit on the floor in the living room, and, laughing, discuss our fantasies. Sometimes, when Emma was visiting her grandmother, we had real romantic evenings. We cooked dinner together, watched movies, and then the whole night belonged only to us. "How many candles do you think I will light today?" Olivia asked with a sly smile when I entered the bedroom. "At least one. I want to see you," I joked in response, approaching her to hug her. At such moments, our kisses became deeper and our touches became more insistent. We weren't shy about complimenting each other, describing how we felt and what turned us on. And this honest, open communication made our sex life even brighter. Sometimes everything happened spontaneously. For example, when I returned from a long day at work, tired, but as soon as I heard the familiar quiet music, saw Olivia looking at me, everything else ceased to exist. We could start kissing right in the hallway, forgetting about dinner, about the phone that was ringing somewhere in the bag, and about endless things to do. These minutes seemed weightless. They belonged only to the two of us. "I like it so much that we never get tired of each other," she said, wrapping herself in a blanket after a passionate night. "And it will always be like this," I answered, hugging her to me. "You are my inspiration." With the birth of Emma, we rearranged our rhythm of life, but the desire to be close did not disappear. We just learned to look for the right moments and cherish them. While my daughter was very little, we, of course, were tired, but even in this, there was some kind of special closeness. We coped with difficulties together, stood up to Emma in turns at night, supported each other. "You know," Olivia said in a quiet whisper, leaning against me, "it's amazing, but when I see how you put Emma to bed, I love you even more." And I also noticed that her maternal tenderness did not alienate us, but, on the contrary, made our connection even deeper. We knew how to appreciate the rare hours when we were alone and put all our passion into them. Sometimes it was something very simple, a warm shower together, a massage before bed, or a short correspondence during the day. "Olivia, I miss you. I can imagine how tonight Me, keep going. I can't wait." At such moments, I realized that our life had taken on a completely different scale. We were not just spouses, we became parents, but at the same time, we managed to maintain the ease and excitement in the relationship. All these details, our conversations, touches, quiet evenings after Emma fell asleep, all this was woven into the overall fabric of the family, making it strong and happy. In our house, there was not only children's laughter, but also our quiet confessions to each other. And I believe that it was this sincerity, the willingness to share our deepest feelings and desires, that helps us remain so close and loving. Now, looking back, I see that it was in these little things that the real meaning lay. Olivia and I were not just husband and wife, we were like-minded people, lovers, parents, best friends. And when we looked at our daughter, laughed together, or gave each other unconditional tenderness, I understood. You don't get tired of such happiness, it's impossible to refuse it. It penetrated deeply into our lives and made it unimaginably beautiful. The years passed, and our life flowed in a happy rhythm. Morning breakfasts with the whole family, walks in the park, trips to the lake, birthdays, Christmas with the smell of cinnamon and tangerines, children's laughter sounding in the house. All this seemed part of an ideal picture in which there was no place for doubts or worries. Emma grew up inquisitive, cheerful, as bright as her mother, with the same smile and lively, sparkling eyes. I looked at both of them and realized that I didn't need anything more. I was sure that our union was indestructible, that we had the strongest family that nothing could destroy. I did not immediately notice the changes in Olivia because I was too immersed in work, in everyday worries, in the joy of communicating with Emma, who became more and more inquisitive every day, asking thousands of questions, demanding my attention and involving me in her games. But one day I suddenly realized that my wife had become different subtly, almost imperceptibly. But if you put all the small details together, the picture turned out to be alarming, even frightening. She stayed late at work more and more often, explaining that it was due to workloads, urgent projects, the need to help a colleague who was threatened with a reprimand. But at the same time, her voice sounded strained and her gaze wandered when I asked why she had to stay late so often and whether she spent too much time outside the home. Sometimes she said that she was tired and just wanted to be in silence, without answering questions, without explaining anything unnecessary. But the more she did this, the more I felt that something was happening. Olivia worked in an advertising agency, promoting large brands, and her work always required involvement, attention to detail, and constant contact with clients. But this had not previously interfered with our family life. She could sit late into the night finishing a project, but she always found time for us, and now everything has changed. Work meetings became more and more frequent, calls came even late in the evening, and sometimes she even preferred to talk on the phone in another room, which she had never done before. I tried to justify it by saying that her field was extremely competitive, that projects took time, that she was just trying to stay on top, but every day my anxiety grew. Previously, on weekends, the whole family would go to the park, have picnics, ride bicycles, or just wander the streets, looking into small, cozy cafes. But now Olivia increasingly said that she was tired, that she wanted to lie down with a book, watch a series, or just be alone, and I tried not to attach importance to this, convincing myself that perhaps she really needed time for herself, that she could be understood, because every person needs personal space. But at the same time, I felt like between an invisible wall grows between us, how it becomes alien, although just recently it was so close, understandable, dear. It seemed that even when we were close, there was an invisible distance between us, as if we were slowly but inevitably drifting in different directions, and despite all my efforts, I could not find a way to close the gap. She began to go out more often with her friends, although she previously preferred to spend evenings at home or with her family. And even when she said that she was going to a meeting with Lauren, her old friend, I felt some strange anxiety because these meetings suddenly began to happen too regularly. And when I one day casually suggested going together, spending the evening in the company of her friends, Olivia hesitated, lowered her eyes, and muttered that it was a bachelorette party, that there would be no men there, that I would feel out of place, but there was no usual lightness in her voice, but only a tension that I had never heard before. Moreover, she began to get nervous if I accidentally looked at her phone or if she left it on the table and suddenly remembered this, immediately hastily grabbing it in her hands and turning off the screen. I began to notice that she became more irritable. She was annoyed when I asked questions, when I was interested in how her day was, what was new at work, when I tried to talk to her about plans for the weekend, and I could not understand what the reason was, because before she always told me about everything, shared her experiences, consulted, and now her answers became short, dry, as if she was performing some kind of duty and not talking with a loved one whom she had previously trusted without looking back. In the evenings, she either sat down with the phone, immersed in endless correspondence, or went to bed earlier than usual, complaining of fatigue, and I tried to convince myself that this was just a temporary period, that all couples go through such moments, that I was too suspicious, but something inside me was already beginning to insistently whisper that I was not mistaken, that something was happening that I did not understand yet, but that would definitely become clear sooner or later. Every morning I woke up with the hope that everything would be the same as before, but every day I realized that we might no longer have the same. I've known for a long time that Olivia has a best friend, Lauren, but I never paid much attention to it. They've been friends since college, they've been through a lot of life, they've supported each other through tough times, and I've always thought that Lauren is just an important part of her life, her past, that Olivia doesn't want to forget. However, over time, I began to notice that this woman's influence on my wife went beyond ordinary friendship. It wasn't just warm support or advice. Lauren was slowly, but surely changing Olivia's view of our marriage, her role in the family, and me. Lauren has always been independent, freedom-loving, and, it seemed to me, too cynical about marriage. She has never been married. She always said that she saw no point in committing herself because life is too short to spend it on one person. In her mouth, these words sounded like a motto, like a truth that she did not doubt for a second. And the more time Olivia spent with her, the more often I heard something similar in her words. At first, these were innocent remarks made casually. You spend too much time at home, Olivia. You need to go out more, meet people, enjoy life. Then it turned into frank hints. Are you sure you want this? Are you satisfied with everything? You could live differently, brighter, more intensely. And one day I realized that Lauren was no longer just my wife's friend. She had become something of an insidious whisper in my ear, a voice of doubt that was methodically destroying everything that we had built over the years. I saw how Olivia changed after meeting her. She returned tense, thoughtful, as if her thoughts were somewhere far away, and answered my questions in monosyllables, as if she did not want to say too much. If earlier she would come home with ease, share her experiences, talk about meetings with friends, now these conversations became more and more restrained and superficial. I felt that Lauren was doing everything to convince her that she deserved more, that marriage to a man was a shackle, that she was missing out on something important. When I tried to talk to Olivia about it one day, she just grinned and said that Lauren just cared about her, that she wanted her to be happy and didn't want her to focus only on her family. She says what I think sometimes, she told me, and then I realized that Lauren's influence had gone too far. I didn't know how to deal with this, but I felt that every day its influence was only increasing, and this did not bode well. I knew this moment would come someday. I knew that sooner or later I would have to face Lauren face to face, without Olivia between us, without her defensive phrases about friends just sharing thoughts. But when it did happen, I did not expect that she herself would provoke a conflict. It happened one of those evenings when Olivia said she would be late at work. I was at home, drinking coffee and thinking about everything that had been happening lately when I heard the sound of the doorbell. I opened the door and saw Lauren. She stood in the doorway with a grin on her face and a bottle of wine in her hands, as if it was a regular visit to an old friend. "Can I come in?" she asked, without waiting for an answer and walking inside. I clenched my jaw, but closed the door. "What do you want, Lauren?" She sat down on the sofa, pouring herself a glass from the bottle she had brought, as if she were at home. "Relax, Lion. I just decided to come in to talk. You don't mind, do you? Or are you afraid of me?" I chuckled. "No, but I know that nothing good will come from this conversation. So let's get to the point quickly." She took a sip of wine and looked at me with open eyes. "You know, Lion, I think you already feel that your marriage is falling apart. But the problem is not Olivia. The problem is you." I exhaled slowly, trying to control myself. "Oh, that's it. So what's my problem, Lauren? Enlighten me." She leaned forward, her eyes sparkling. "You're boring, predictable. Do you think that just being a good husband is enough to keep a woman around? You have no idea what Olivia really wants. You've become an old, comfortable chair for her, which she sits in out of habit, but dreams of something new, something more, alive." I felt anger creep through me, but I forced myself not to lose my composure. "And you think you know better? Do you want her to leave me? Is that your plan?" Lauren chuckled. "My plan? No, Lion. Everything is already happening. I'm just showing her what she herself is afraid to admit. And you know what's funny? When she finally makes up her mind, you won't even understand exactly when everything went to hell." I took a step closer, towering over her. "Listen to me carefully, Lauren. I don't know why you're trying so hard to destroy our family, but I warn you, stay away. You're minding your own business." She stood up, smiling. "I just want my friend to be happy. And if that means she has to leave you behind, well, that's life." I couldn't stand it. In an instant, anger took over, and I grabbed her hand. "Do you think that you can just get into someone else's family and control someone else's life?" I hissed, feeling a real volcano of emotions boiling inside. Lauren pulled her hand away, her eyes flashing with cold mockery. "You're ridiculous, Lion. You think you can intimidate me? Believe me, I've seen worse men than you, and guess what? Olivia's not half yours anymore. You're just too stupid to admit it." I felt my fingers curl into fists, but I knew that if I allowed myself to give in to my anger, I would only make her stronger. I took a deep breath and said, "Get out of my house, now." Lauren shrugged, took one last sip of wine, and slowly walked towards the exit. You can fight, Lion, but you've already lost. Just accept it. I watched her leave, clenching my fists. This conversation only confirmed my worst fears. Lauren wasn't just poisoning Olivia's mind, she was enjoying it. This means that a real war awaited me ahead. I couldn't remain silent any longer. That evening, when Olivia returned home, I knew immediately that she was seeing Lauren again. She had the same distant look, as if she was somewhere far away in her thoughts. Her smile seemed forced, and when I spoke, she didn't even look at me right away. I didn't want to start the conversation with a conflict, but I felt that if I didn't talk about it now, then it would be too late. "Were you with Lauren again?" I asked, trying to remain calm, although everything was boiling inside. Olivia rolled her eyes. "Oh, don't start again, Lion. I'm an adult and I can decide for myself who I associate with. You understand that she's turning you against me, right?" I took a step closer, hoping to catch her gaze, but she turned away. "She just gives me advice, like any friend. Is that a crime?" I clenched my fists. "Olivia, she doesn't just give advice. She frankly tells you that you are missing out on opportunities, that your marriage is a cage, that you deserve something more. Do you even understand what she is doing? She is destroying us." She sighed as if she was tired of this talk. "Lion, you're being dramatic. Lauren's just different. She has her own way of looking at things. She sees the world differently, and sometimes it's good for me to hear her opinion. That doesn't mean I'm going to give up everything." I shook my head. "She's changing you, Olivia. I can see it. You're different. You're moving away from me, and I'm scared because I feel like I'm losing you." She finally looked at me, and something like regret flashed in her eyes. But it only lasted for a moment. "Lion, you can't control who I'm friends with. It's my business. Let's just not talk about it, okay?" Her voice was firm, almost cold. I wanted to continue to convince her, but I realized that it was useless now. Lauren had already woven her poison too much into her mind. I didn't know what to do next, but one thing was clear: I wasn't going to just watch someone take my wife away from me. Olivia didn't expect to meet Mark that day. She was in a hurry to leave the office, planning to quickly drink coffee before the next meeting, and here he stood in front of her, her ex-husband, just as confident in himself, with the same easy grin that once drove her crazy. He has not changed, still the same penetrating gaze, expensive suit, manners of a man accustomed to getting what he wants. "Olivia," he said, tilting his head slightly in greeting, as if they hadn't seen each other in years and had just run into each other after work. She froze, internally shrinking from surprise. "Mark, what are you doing here?" He chuckled and shrugged. "I work in this area. You too? What a coincidence. Or maybe fate." She snorted, but something inside her trembled. They really haven't seen each other for a long time. She remembered their past relationship as something distant, left in the past, but here he stood in front of her alive, real, attractive. "How are you?" he asked, as if by chance. "How is your life? Are you happy?" She tensed. She didn't like the way he looked at her, as if he could see through her smile, as if he knew more than he should. "Yes, of course. Everything is fine. I have a wonderful family. Husband, daughter." Mark leaned a little closer, his voice becoming softer. "You know, sometimes I think we could be in each other's shoes. I was a fool when I let you go, and I think you think about it sometimes too." Olivia felt her heart beat faster. "Mark." He interrupted her, raising his hand as if begging her to let him finish. "I don't want to interfere in your life. Just, if you ever feel like you're missing something, like you made a mistake by choosing the wrong person, just know that I'm always here." She didn't know what to answer. Her mind told her that all this was manipulation, a game that Mark always knew how to play flawlessly. But deep down, she felt a strange excitement, memories of what they were, what they could become. Meeting Mark was not an accident, at least for him. After their first conversation, he did not disappear, did not leave her alone, but, on the contrary, began to appear more and more often. Olivia couldn't say she was expecting it, but every time he was around, a strange, uninvited excitement rose inside her. "You again?" she asked one day when he approached her in the cafe where she usually took her morning latte before work. Mark smiled, sat down opposite him, and casually shrugged his shoulders. "Isn't it possible to accidentally run into an old friend?" His voice was light, but his gaze was intent, confident, as if he already knew the answer to her thoughts. She pretended not to notice how her hand trembled as she brought the cup to her mouth. "What do you want, Mark?" He leaned closer. "I want you, Olivia. I want back what we lost." She wanted to laugh, to tell him that this was nonsense, that everything was in the past, but the words got stuck in her throat. He was so confident. The same charisma, the same assertiveness, the same magnetism that he possessed when they were together. He had never known refusal, and apparently, he was not going to start now. "You're married, I know," he continued, studying her face. "But can you honestly say that you are happy? True happiness does not exist without passion, without emotions. Can you say that with him you feel the same as you felt with me?" Olivia tensed. "It's not fair. It's stupid, Mark." He smiled and leaned even closer. "No, Olivia, it's true, and we both know it." She stood up abruptly, almost knocking over the chair, but he remained sitting, watching her with the same predatory calm. "You're playing a dangerous game, Mark." "And you still remember the rules," he replied, and there was the confidence of a winner in his voice. Olivia left the cafe, but a storm was raging inside her. She shouldn't have allowed these meetings to continue. She shouldn't have felt what she felt. But Mark had no intention of leaving, and now she knew that for sure. Mark knew that his charm and confidence alone might not be enough to break Olivia's established life. He needed help, someone who could subtly influence her decisions, push her to the idea that her marriage was something fading, devoid of passion and real emotions. And this person was already there, Lauren, the friend who always inspired Olivia that she deserved more. The meeting between them took place in a small bar, where unobtrusive music was playing and the lighting was dim. Mark arrived first, ordered whiskey, and waited calmly. Lauren appeared soon, confident, with a slight smile on her lips, as if she already knew what the conversation would be about. "Did you want to talk?" she asked, sitting down opposite and placing a glass of wine in front of her. Mark smiled slightly. "Yes, I think we have a common interest." Lauren cocked her head to the side, looking at him curiously. "Interesting. And what can we want equally?" He took a small sip of whiskey, then leaned closer. "You have been telling Olivia for a long time that her life could be brighter, that she is stuck in a routine, that she deserves better. I suggest you take the next step, help her finally realize this." Lauren grinned. "You want me to convince her to cheat on her husband?" Mark paused, then nodded. "I want her to understand that her heart does not belong to Lion, for her to allow herself to feel what she once felt for me. You yourself think that she needs a new start, don't you?" Lauren studied his face silently, then took a sip of wine. "What's in it for me?" Mark smiled. "You get pleasure when you see how she takes steps towards freedom, and I am ready to make this step inevitable." Lauren tapped her fingers on the table thoughtfully. "Let's just say I'm not against a little change in her life, but it has to look natural. You can't just force her to go to you. It has to be her own decision." Mark leaned closer. "That's why I need you. You know her weaknesses, her dreams, her doubts. You can push her in the right direction." Lauren grinned and raised her glass. "Okay, let's see what we can do. But if everything goes wrong, I have nothing to do with it." Mark smiled, raising his glass in response. "Consider us a deal." And from that moment on, everything went in the direction he wanted. Lauren never acted head-on. She knew that Olivia was not the kind of woman who would succumb to an instant impulse or sudden pressure. Everything had to look natural, as if it were her own idea, her own desire. Therefore, when they met in a cafe, Lauren pretended that this meeting was just a friendly conversation. "You haven't relaxed in so long," Lauren noted, leaning closer to her friend. Remember how we used to go to clubs and dance until the morning? Don't you want to feel that lightness again? Olivia shook her head, taking a sip of her coffee. Lauren, I have a family, I have a job. It was a long time ago, in another life. So what? Is family a death sentence? Can't you afford a little fun? It's just one evening, we'll just dance, have a cocktail, laugh. I promise, nothing like that. Olivia thought about it. The idea really sounded innocent. One evening, just a bachelorette party. Lauren saw the doubt in her eyes and immediately developed an idea. Besides, I know a great place, a cozy club without a crowd of teenagers, stylish atmosphere, cool music. You won't regret it. Olivia rolled her eyes but smiled. Okay, I persuaded you. One evening. Lauren nodded contentedly, but her plan was not yet completed. Soon after the conversation, she sent a short message to Mark. We're going to the club tomorrow. Olivia will be there. You know what to do. The answer came instantly. Great. I'm already looking forward to it. The club was pulsating with music, colorful lights flashing in the twilight, creating an atmosphere of carefree fun. Olivia felt a little awkward at first, but the cocktails quickly did the trick. She laughed and danced with Lauren, forgetting about everyday worries, dissolving into the rhythm of the music. Lauren did not leave her unattended. She deftly directed her mood, not giving Olivia a reason to think about something serious. And then, as if by chance, Mark appeared. He was relaxed, confident, with that same smile that once took her breath away. What a meeting! Mark winked at Lauren, as if expressing gratitude for her participation in this evening. We decided to reminisce a little about our youth, Lauren replied playfully, handing him a glass of whiskey. Olivia swayed slightly, feeling the alcohol warm up her body, and Mark leaned closer, whispering compliments that made her laugh and blush at the same time. Lauren played along, noting how perfect she and Mark looked together. You look amazing today. Mark ran his fingers over her wrist, making her heart beat faster. Let's just forget about everything and enjoy this evening. Lauren smiled, feeling the moment had come. Girls shouldn't drink alone. She ordered another round of cocktails, and Olivia didn't even notice that she was starting to lose control. After a while, Lauren stood up from the table, as if accidentally leaving them alone. Mark did not miss the chance. He leaned closer, his lips almost touching her ear. Shall we get out of here and continue the evening without anyone else? Olivia hesitated for a moment, but the alcohol, the atmosphere, and the very idea of forgetting about everything did their job. She nodded. They left the club, and Mark already knew where to go. The hotel was nearby, a luxurious room with panoramic views of the city. Olivia felt something ignite in her that she had not experienced for a long time, that same forgotten desire, lost in routine. Mark slowly took off her coat. His hands slid over her shoulders. His hot breath touched her neck. You know you wanted this, he whispered, and she couldn't say no. Mark's hot breath burned her neck. His hands confidently slid over her body, making her forget about everything. Olivia did not resist. On the contrary, she was overcome by a wave of desire that she had suppressed for so long. Her moral principles, oaths, promises, everything dissolved in this moment. He pinned her to the bed, holding her wrists tightly. You've lived by the rules for so long, Olivia. His voice was low, mocking. But tell me honestly, isn't everything different with him? You only feel alive when I'm around. She closed her eyes, pushing away the inner voice that reminded her of who she was and who she should be. Mark. He interrupted her by squeezing her thigh roughly. Your husband is a pathetic loser. He can't give you anything. He made you boring, gray, and imprisoned you in his worthless life. And you were created for passion, for real emotions. Isn't that right? Olivia didn't answer, but inside herself, she already knew the answer. She felt something new: freedom, relaxedness, something she had not experienced for years. She allowed herself to enjoy the moment without regrets, without remorse. Her body moved in time with his movements, their moans merging together. Every word Mark inflamed her more and more, breaking the last barriers inside. You know you made the right choice, Olivia. You're finally no longer his thing. You're mine now. And at that moment, she really believed it. Olivia sat opposite Lauren in the cafe, twirling a cup of cold coffee in her hands. Emotions were raging inside her, but she still could not find the words to start this conversation. Lauren, as if knowing what would be discussed, watched her with a slight, almost mocking smile. Well, Lauren finally said, tilting her head to the side, you didn't just call me? Olivia took a deep breath and, without looking up, said quietly, I, I was with Mark. That night after the club. Lauren raised an eyebrow slightly, but there was no surprise or condemnation on her face. More like satisfaction. And how is it? Olivia smiled nervously and shook her head. I don't know. It was. It was amazing, but now I don't understand what's wrong with me. I love Lion. Lauren grinned. Olivia, honey, stop being driven. You just allowed yourself to feel life. You yourself said that you miss emotions, passion. So what's the problem? Olivia looked at her, eyes full of doubt. But this is cheating, Lauren. No matter how I try to justify it, this is cheating. I'm deceiving Lion. Lauren rolled her eyes and took a sip of her coffee. Listen, betrayal is if you want to leave, destroy your family, and you just took what you lacked. Do you feel guilty? Olivia thought for a moment and then said quietly, no, I want to do it again. Lauren smiled with satisfaction. See, you just finally took what's yours. Lion's good, but he doesn't give you what Mark gives. So why choose when you can have the best of both worlds? Olivia exhaled deeply, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. For the first time, she allowed herself to think that maybe Lauren was right. She did not intend to leave her husband, but she could not refuse these new sensations. And now she no longer tried to convince herself of this. I felt for a long time that something was wrong. At first, these were little things. Olivia was more and more late at work. More often, she was on the phone. Her gaze became somehow distant, as if she were nearby, but in reality somewhere far away. I tried to convince myself that it was just fatigue, that it was temporary, that everything would get better. But every day it only got worse. That evening she said she would spend time with Lauren. An ordinary meeting of friends, nothing special. Don't wait for me, I'll go to bed late, she said, giving me a quick peck on the cheek before leaving. I nodded, forcing myself not to think too much, but something pierced me inside. I didn't know why I was anxious this time. After a couple of hours, I decided to call Lauren. Just ask how they are doing there. She didn't answer the call, but when I sent a message, I almost immediately received a response. Oh, Lion finally decided to check. Yes, she is with me. Everything is fine. We are having a great time. I reread her words 10 times. Lauren had always treated me with mild hostility, but there was something else in her message, some challenge, something mocking. Why did she write that? Why had she never spoken in such a tone before? The feeling of anxiety grew. I got into the car and drove to the center, not knowing why. Maybe just to make sure everything was okay, that it was just a stupid mistake. I drove around the area several times, checking out a couple of places we had been together before. I knew I looked crazy, but I couldn't stop. The same question kept ringing in my head. Where is she? Late at night, she returned. I sat in the living room without turning on the light. She came in, not expecting me to be awake, and was startled when she noticed me. Are you awake? Her voice was even, but I detected a slight nervousness. I looked at her for a long time without blinking. How was your walk? Olivia took a couple of steps, taking off her coat. Okay, Lauren and I had a few drinks, chatted, nothing special. I nodded slowly. It's strange. When I called her, she didn't pick up, but then she wrote me. A very interesting message. It was like she was teasing me. Are you sure you were with her? She froze for a second, just for a short moment, but I noticed it. Her fingers tightened on the fabric of her coat. Her breathing became a little deeper. Lauren just loves to make fun of you, you know her, she grinned, but there was something like fear in her eyes. I continued to remain silent. She was clearly nervous, but tried to hide it. And at that moment, I realized that I was not mistaken. Something is really happening. I still hoped that this was not what I was thinking about. Hope stupid, naive, but still glimmered inside me. I didn't want to believe that my wife was lying to my face. But for the first time in many years, I felt that her smile was fake. I could no longer remain silent. All this time I tried to convince myself that my suspicions were just paranoia, that I was mistaken, that I was seeing something that wasn't there. But every lie, every glance, every inconsistency in her words brought this moment closer. I was sitting in the living room, clutching a glass of whiskey, when she entered. Late. Too late for someone who was supposedly just seeing a friend. Olivia wasn't even surprised to see me awake. She tiredly took off her coat without looking me in the eyes. "Why aren't you sleeping?" Her voice sounded evenly, but I caught the tension in it. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her with a long, searching gaze. Then he asked coldly, "Where have you been?" She sighed, as if the very fact of the question irritated her. "I told you, with Lauren." I nodded, put the glass on the table, and slowly stood up. "Lauren? Interesting. You know what's weird? Lauren doesn't take the trouble to cover for you. She'd love to tell me where you've been, but the problem is, she didn't even leave the house today." Olivia froze for a second, and I understood everything. "Have you visited her again?" she challenged, but her voice trembled. "Are you following me? Are you sick?" I took a step closer, clenching my fists. "No, I'm just tired of your lies. Tired of watching you grow further and further away every day. Tired of seeing you come home with that fucking sparkle in your eyes. The way you treat me like I'm a stranger." She grinned, but there was not a hint of amusement in it. "So what now? Do you want to hear the truth? Do you think you're ready for this?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "Say it. Just say it out loud." Silence. Long, hard. I saw how there was a struggle going on inside her, how she wavered between lies and the cruel truth, and suddenly her face changed, as if something had broken. "Yes, Lion," her voice sounded clear, with icy calm. "I'm sleeping with Mark." I felt everything turn inside me, as if I had been hit in the stomach. Even knowing the truth, even preparing for this moment, I was not prepared for how painful it would sound. But she didn't stop. She took a step forward, looking me straight in the face, and something similar to anger sparkled in her eyes. "Do you know why? Because he gives me what you can't. He makes me feel alive, desired. And you have long become just a background, Lion. Do you think that being a good husband is enough? You're wrong. I need a man, not a convenient option." I swallowed, trying to control myself. "Are you serious? Are you standing in front of me now and just spitting in my face after everything we've had?" She grinned. "What did we have, Lion? Family comfort, daily routine, endless conversations about work and bills. Do you think this is enough to keep a woman?" I felt my fingers clenching into fists, like everything inside was burning. "So why are you here? Why are you returning to this house if you don't need it?" She fell silent. For the first time in this entire conversation, she didn't know what to say, but I already knew the answer. "Because I love you," she finally whispered, "but I can't give it up." I couldn't hear it anymore, but instead of turning around and walking away, I stepped closer and clenched my jaw. "You want me to just accept this, accept that my wife leaves for someone else every time, and then comes back here as if nothing happened? Do you think I can live like this?" She ran her hand through her hair, apparently confused in her emotions. "I don't know. It's gotten out of control. I didn't mean to. But Lauren, Mark, they, I just, I'm confused." I looked at her and realized that she was no longer the woman I once fought for. She stood in front of me, broken, but confident that she had made the right choice. I couldn't just pick up and leave. I couldn't just give up everything, because in all this dirt, there were still memories, love, pain, and our daughter. But now I knew for sure this was the beginning of the end. I couldn't just leave it behind. I couldn't forget her words. I couldn't erase from my memory that moment when she admitted cheating with icy calm, when her voice, filled with some strange challenge, pierced me like a dagger, tearing all my feelings to pieces. But despite this, despite all the pain, despite the rage that rolled in waves, I still wanted her. And this desire was something dark, gloomy, something that lived in the depths of my being, making me hate myself for it, but at the same time not allowing me to retreat. When I touched her, it was not about tenderness, not about love, not about those feelings that once united us. It was about proof, about rage, about despair, about the fact that I still own her, that she belongs to me, even if her heart and her mind are no longer here, even if every time she closes her eyes, I don't know who exactly she sees in front of her, but I still continue, I still wait for the moment when the pain will subside. But she only intensifies, turning our every contact into a struggle, into a silent battle, into a duel in which no one can win. She doesn't resist, she doesn't say no, but I see a shadow in her eyes, a vague glimmer of something that I don't like. That makes me even more angry, and I grip her wrists tighter, pressing her into the mattress, trying to make her feel me, see me, realize that I'm still here, that I'm not going to disappear, that I won't let her just go away, just erase everything that was between us. But the harder I try, the more the further she moves away, the colder her lips become, the quieter her moans, and I hate it. I hate myself for continuing. I hate her for allowing all this to happen. I hate Mark. I hate Lauren. I hate this house, these walls, this smell of her skin that used to drive me crazy and now poisons me. But I can't stop because at this moment, it's the only thing that gives me a sense of control, the feeling that I still matter, that I'm not just a sidelined part of her life. After that, she turns away, pulls the blanket over herself, goes into the bathroom, stands there for a long time without leaving, and I remain lying in the dark, looking at the ceiling, listening to the sound of water, listening to her breathing, which seems to me too distant, too alien, and I understand that this is no longer us, this is no longer our life, this is no longer the story that I wrote in my head all these years, and this thought covers me completely, not letting me breathe, not allowing me to move, because perhaps I have already lost. Perhaps all that remains between us are these meaningless nights filled with anger, rage, and despair, in which there is nothing but mutual destruction. I began to notice that more and more often I found myself not wanting to talk to her. I don't want to look at her. I don't want to hear her voice. She walked around the house as if nothing had happened, but I knew that every step she took had a dull echo inside me. I could no longer be around her the way I used to be. One evening, as I sat in the kitchen, staring at my empty cup, Olivia walked in and stood in the doorway. I didn't look at her. "You won't even say a word to me?" Her voice was quiet, but there was a sense of fatigue in it. I slowly looked up, meeting her eyes, and shrugged. "What do you want to hear? That everything is okay? That I can just forget?" She took a deep breath and walked closer, leaning against the table. "I'm not asking you to forget. I want to understand what's between us now." I smiled wryly. "What could it be? You yourself decided that this is not enough." She lowered her eyes. "Lion, it hurts me when you do this to me. I'm here, I didn't leave." I clenched my jaw, holding back my irritation. "You are here, but you are not with me." She tried to take my hand, but I pulled her away. "You're avoiding me. You don't even try to fight for us," she said, desperation in her voice. I stood up, pushing back my chair. "What should I fight for, Olivia? For the man who betrayed me? For the family that is now just an illusion? I don't know how to live on, but I know for sure that I can't live like this." She stepped forward, but I was already leaving the kitchen. I didn't want to listen anymore. I didn't want to feel. I just needed to get away from her words, from her presence. I withdrew into myself, closed myself in my head, fenced myself off from everything that used to be our life. We lived in the same house, but became strangers. I couldn't decide on a divorce, yet the thought of it burned me from the inside, but staying close to her was unbearable. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to take everything out. But something inside me demanded a way out, some kind of explanation, even if not for her, but for myself, So I called Eric. We sat at the bar, silently sipping beer for a long time. He knew that I wouldn't call him just like that. After all, Eric was one of the few people I could trust. "You look like crap," he finally said, setting his glass down. "What's happened?" I chuckled, shook my head, and took a sip. "Olivia, she slept with Mark, her ex-husband." Eric didn't answer right away. He just looked at me carefully. "You are sure?" "She said it herself." I ran my hand over my face, feeling the anger welling up again. "She says it was drunk. She says Lauren put pressure on her, Mark, her ex-husband too. She says she didn't want to. But that's not an excuse, right?" Eric exhaled and leaned back in his chair. "Damn, Lion, I'm sorry. What are you going to do?" I shrugged. "I don't know. I can't live with this. I can't leave either. I'm not even sure what I want." Eric nodded, as if all this was painfully familiar to him. "Look, you have every right to be angry, but I'll tell you what, you have to decide what you want, because if you just keep existing like this, it will eat you up." I looked at him. "Do you think I should forgive her?" He grinned. "I don't know if you can do this, but if you don't forgive, you will have to leave. There is no third option. You either live with it or start over. Otherwise, you will torture yourself and her." I looked into my glass for a long time, digesting his words. I didn't want to hear them, but he knew that he was right. I didn't know why we continued to sit in this bar, ordering one whiskey after another, but Eric was in no hurry to leave, and I didn't feel the strength to resist. Alcohol blurred reality, turning pain into something muffled, distant, but not disappearing. "You do understand that now you have every right to do the same." Eric leaned closer, his voice slightly hoarse from drinking. "She made her choice. You can make yours." I chuckled and shook my head. "Do you think this will help?" Eric shrugged. "What if? It definitely won't get worse." I took another sip, feeling something inside me break. I was always taught that revenge is stupid, that it does not bring relief, but at that moment I wanted only one thing to erase it from my head, to prove to myself that I can do it too, that I'm still worth something. And it was at that moment that she approached our table. A tall, striking brunette with a confident smile and a look that read an invitation. "You seem too serious for such an evening." Her voice was low, bewitching. Eric grinned and immediately invited her to sit down. "This guy," he nodded in my direction, "deserves a little fun today." She looked at me with a searching gaze, then smiled slowly. "I think it can be arranged." I didn't resist. When her hand slid over my palm, when her lips touched my ear, I decided to let everything go. I didn't think about the consequences. I just let it happen. The night was filled with hot kisses, heavy sighs, and bodies yearning for comfort. But the next morning, when I woke up in an unfamiliar room, with a throbbing pain in my temples and a strange body next to me, I realized one thing: the emptiness had not gone away, and pain too. I came home in the morning. My head was throbbing, the whiskey felt heavy in my stomach, and the cigarettes and foreign perfume on my clothes stink so much that I wanted to throw them off right in the hallway. Olivia was no longer asleep. She sat on the edge of the sofa in the living room, her hands clenched into fists, and her gaze was prickly, wary. "Where have you been?" Her voice sounded evenly, but anger was already boiling in it. I threw the keys on the nightstand, not even bothering to take off my shoes. "Somewhere in the same place you were when you had sex with Mark. I also had sex with some first bitch I met." She turned pale. Her breathing was ragged, but I saw that she was not sorry. She was scared that I dared to do the same. "Are you serious?" Her lips trembled. "Do you think this is the way out? Just take it and pay me back in kind?" I chuckled. "Why not? You made it so easy, Olivia. Why should I suffer alone? Now we're even." She jumped up from the sofa, came closer, and rage lit up in her eyes. "You don't even know what you've done." I took a step forward, leaned towards her, so close that I could feel her breathing. "So you had an idea? You were also drunk. Were they pushing you too? Or maybe you just wanted to, but I didn't let you. She swung, but I grabbed her wrist and squeezed it, preventing her from hitting me. Her chest heaved with anger and shock. What, bitch? Does it hurt? Is it offensive? Are you trying to say that I acted meanly? You disgust me, she muttered through clenched teeth. I let go of her hand and straightened up. The feelings are mutual. She turned away and covered her face with her hands, but I was not going to console her. I walked past her into the bedroom, slammed the door behind me, and realized that revenge had not brought me any relief, only more hatred for her and to myself. I didn't know how long I sat in that room, staring at the ceiling. My thoughts were racing chaotically, but one thing was constant: I can no longer be near her. Everything between us is broken. It's broken to pieces, and there's no point in trying to pick up the pieces. In the kitchen, I heard her steps. Olivia didn't even try to hide her presence. She rattled cups, noisily opened the refrigerator, as if hoping that I would come out and we would start this endless circle of scandals and accusations again. But I had neither strength nor desire left. I got up, took my jacket, and, without looking at her, headed towards the exit. She managed to come up and stood at the doorway, blocking my path. "Where are you going?" There was no anger or regret in her voice, only fatigue. I looked into her eyes. "To a lawyer." She blinked, as if she did not immediately understand the meaning of what was said. Are you filing for divorce?" I nodded. "What do you think I should do? Close my eyes? Live with it? Watch you keep lying?" "Olivia, I can't." Her face contorted, and she stepped closer. "Lion, wait. Can't we at least try?" I laughed rudely, evilly. "Try? Try what? Pretend that you're not a creature, that you didn't betray me, didn't have sex with him, and then come back to me like nothing happened? Are you serious, Olivia?" She flushed, her eyes lit up with rage. "I made a mistake. I was in despair. You distanced yourself. You pushed me into this. And now you act like a saint, as if you were perfect. Do you think that your revenge is better? You are as dirty as me." I clenched my fists, feeling the anger tearing me apart from the inside. "The difference is that at least I'm not pretending. And you lie like you breathe. You're just comfortable living with me, that's all. Did you think I'd forgive? That I'd feel sorry for you? Damn, you're pathetic." She hit me on the chest with all her might, but I didn't even move. "You're a damn bastard, Lion. I hate you." I chuckled. "Great. Then that means I'm doing everything right." She was breathing heavily, her shoulders were trembling, but I saw not from pain, but from impotent anger. She couldn't accept the fact that I didn't give her a chance to make excuses. "You don't have the right to just cross me out," she screamed. I leaned towards her, glaring. "I already did." I opened the door, went out, and when it closed behind me, I felt relieved. Bitter, heavy, but a relief. Divorce was the only way out. I thought it was already over. After that fight, after the screaming, hitting, and dirty words, Olivia and I would never touch each other again. But as it turned out, hatred and passion are two sides of the same coin. She stood at the window, hugging herself with her arms, her back tense, her breathing ragged. I didn't know what else to say, and I didn't want to. Words were useless. Silence hung in the room, heavy, thick, full of unspoken emotions. "Are you still here?" She threw over her shoulder without turning around. Her voice was hoarse, there was anger in it, but underneath there was something else, hidden trembling, uncertainty, desire. I stepped closer. "Do you want me to leave?" She laughed shortly, nervously. "I don't care what you want. You're leaving, right? So why the hell are you still here?" I was silent, but stepped forward. I wanted this woman. One more step, and there was no distance left between us. I felt her warmth, the smell of leather mixed with the remnants of perfume. She stood motionless, but I saw her chest heaving and her fingers clenching into fists. "Tell me that you hate me," I whispered, touching her neck with my lips. She flinched, but did not move away. "I hate you." Her voice broke, and the next second she turned around, grabbed my shirt, pulled me towards her with such force, as if she wanted to dig into me, dissolved in this moment. We collapsed on the bed, clinging to each other with desperate greed. Her nails left scratches on my back, my fingers dug into her thighs. It was not affectionate, it was not tender, it was a dirty, rough, hate and passion-filled farewell. "You've always been so stupid," she breathed, pressing her ear to my ear. "Always thought you could control me." I jerked her around and pressed her to the sheets. "And you were always a pathetic liar who didn't know what she wanted." She laughed through a groan. "But now I know." We moved in unison, not thinking about the past or the future. At that moment, there was only desire without meaning, without consequences. Everything else has disappeared. When it was all over, we lay next to each other, breathing heavily, looking at the ceiling. Neither of us said a word. There was no regret, no consolation. We both knew it was the end. Tomorrow I'll leave, forever. I rented a small apartment in another part of the city. It wasn't that I needed something new, I just couldn't stay in a place where every corner reminded me of her, about us, about what was once a family. Work became my salvation. I took extra shifts, stayed in the office until late at night, overloaded myself with tasks, just so as not to be alone with the silence that was eating away at me from the inside. Colleagues noticed the changes, but no one dared to ask what happened. Perhaps it was for the best I was not ready to talk. Every Tuesday and Saturday I saw Emma. She already understood that everything had changed, but did not ask unnecessary questions. In her eyes there was a childish, naive desire to return everything as it was. I tried to smile when I was with her, bought ice cream, took her to the park, read her favorite books before bed, but in my heart I felt that I was lying. We both knew something was missing in this new world. Emptiness became my constant companion. I could laugh with my daughter, work until exhaustion, even try to date someone new, but as soon as I was left alone, everything came back. These moments, when I lay down on the cold bed and caught myself thinking that out of habit I was waiting next to her, were the most terrible. I didn't know how long it would take for it to pass. Perhaps never. I don't remember the blow. Just a buzzing in my ears, a crack of metal, as if someone was squeezing my skull in a vice, and an instant flash of light before my eyes. Everything happened too quickly to comprehend, but slowly enough that every moment was forever etched in the memory. I was driving home late at night after another endless shift. It was drizzling outside the window, drops knocked on the windshield, turning the road into a continuous blurry canvas. I was tired, exhausted to the limit, thoughts were confused in my head, but I just wanted to get there, throw my jacket on the chair, and fall asleep. Red light. I slowed down. A second before the impact, I noticed the headlights in the mirror. Too fast, too close. Truck. The impact threw my car into the next lane. The body was twisted like a tin can, the glass shattered into small fragments. The pain did not come immediately. At first, there was a shock, deafening silence, as if someone had suddenly turned off the sound in this damn movie where I played the main role. And then a wave came sharp, burning, such that I wanted to scream, but my voice was stuck in my throat. I couldn't move. I couldn't feel my legs. The air is saturated with the smell of gasoline and blood. Screams were heard somewhere in the distance, and the wail of sirens was approaching. Through the broken glass, I saw someone running towards me, but my eyelids became too heavy. Darkness enveloped me, taking away the last thing I could hold in my consciousness, fear. My life was falling apart for the second time, but this time I couldn't even fight. Through the heavy, sticky fog of consciousness, I heard muffled voices. Somewhere nearby, monitors were beeping. The smell of antiseptic filled my nostrils, and every breath I took was a dull pain in my ribs. I tried to move, but my body didn't obey. It was like I was chained in concrete. My eyes opened with difficulty, the world swam in front of me, but I made out a white ceiling, the dim light of the lamps, and the silhouette of a nurse bending over me. "Lion?" The voice was soft, cautious. "Can you hear me?" I swallowed, my throat was dry, the words were difficult to come by. "Where am I?" "You're in the hospital. You were in a serious accident. You've had several surgeries, but you're safe now. The brain began to slowly sort out the information. Accident. Truck. Pain. I tried to raise my arm, but it was bound with bandages and enrollment 4. Only now did I realize how broken my body was. What injuries do I have? I wheezed. The nurse hesitated for a moment, then, following protocol, spoke in a calm but sympathetic voice. You have multiple fractures, 3 ribs, left leg, right arm. Spinal injury, but no critical injuries. Severe concussion, several internal bruises. Your condition is stable, but you will need long-term rehabilitation. I closed my eyes. Everything that I had built after the divorce, all attempts to move on, now seemed like a pathetic illusion. I couldn't even get out of this damn bed. Life knocked me down to earth again, only now even harder. I didn't immediately realize that there was someone in the room. My head was still heavy, my body was not listening, but through the hum of medications and the muffled noise of the hospital, I heard a familiar voice. He was quiet, tense, as if filled with fear. God, Lion. I forced myself to open my eyes slightly. The light cut across my pupils, and at first everything in front of me was a blur. I blinked a few times to focus, and then I saw her. Olivia stood by the bed, slouched, as if the weight of what had happened between us was pressing on her shoulders. His hair is disheveled, there are shadows under his eyes, his fingers are clenched into fists. There was something in her gaze that I couldn't immediately decipher: anxiety, fear, or perhaps sincere regret. You, what are you doing here? My voice was weak, hoarse, as if I had not spoken for ages. She pursed her lips, as if gathering courage, and stepped closer. I got a call from the hospital. You're still listed as my husband. She stopped, held her breath, then clenched her fingers tighter. I came right away. I wanted to grin and say something caustic, but I didn't have the strength. Instead, I just exhaled and turned away. Well, now you can see me in my most pathetic state. Enjoy. Olivia sat up straight. Don't say that. You almost died, Lion. Do you understand that? I stared at the ceiling, feeling a dull fatigue rising inside me. So what? It would simplify everything, right? It would close the issue and save everyone from unnecessary problems. She exhaled noisily and ran her hand over her face as if trying to collect her thoughts. Then she stepped closer, hesitantly sat down on the edge of the bed, and, after hesitating, carefully took my hand. Her fingers were warm. For real. I felt this contact like an electric shock. You're talking nonsense. Her voice became firmer, and a subtle tremble appeared in it. I'm not going to leave you. I need you, Lion. I clenched my jaw, barely coping with the surging anger. After everything that happened, are you serious? After what you did, after what happened between us? Do you really think you can just show up here and say you won't leave? She tightened her grip on my hand, her nails slightly digging into my skin. Seriously. Yes, we destroyed each other. Yes, we hurt each other. But I still care about you, and I won't leave. I looked at her, trying to find the lie in her eyes. Somewhere deep down, I would like to catch her doing this. I would like to hear something false that would give me a reason to push her away, to get rid of her once and for all. But I didn't find it. There was only sincerity, the same one that I so lacked when it was not too late. You can't just come and pretend you suddenly care, I said quietly, feeling a heaviness growing in my chest. That's not how it works. Olivia pressed her lips together, then slowly shook her head. I'm not pretending. You may not believe me, you may hate me, you may push me away, but I won't leave, Lion. Not this time. I closed my eyes. Pain throbbed throughout my body and even more intensely in my soul. I didn't know why she was here. Out of pity, out of guilt, or from something more that she was afraid to admit even to herself. The time in the hospital dragged on painfully long. I lay in this cold room, listened to the monotonous squeak of the monitors, looked at the ceiling, and tried not to think. But memory is a damn thing. She haunted me, bringing back moments that I would like to erase, but could not. I closed my eyes and her hands appeared in front of me, the same ones that I once loved to kiss so much, feeling their tenderness. I remembered how Olivia laughed when I teased her by brushing my lips against her palm. Everything was simple then. Then we were happy. I remembered how we first rented that small apartment, which then seemed like a palace to us. We carried boxes together, fought over the arrangement of furniture, fell asleep on the mattress without having time to buy a bed. I thought then that we had a whole life ahead of us, filled with warmth and trust. I remembered her eyes the day Emma was born. She held our daughter in her arms, and in that moment I knew I loved her so much it was scary. I would give anything to capture that expression on her face forever. But then changes came, growing cracks, misunderstanding, coldness in her gaze. I wish I could blame her for everything that happened, for her lies, for her betrayal, because she trampled my love, threw away our lives like garbage. I was torn apart with anger. This woman had destroyed me, turned my life into ruins, and now she stood at my bedside pretending to care. Lie. Her whole life is one continuous lie. A woman of easy virtue who betrayed not only me, but everything we had. I hated her like I had never hated anyone. I hated her for the love I still felt, and for the fact that I could not get rid of this pain. Every day was a struggle. I hated this state, helplessness, dependence, inability to even move normally without assistance. The doctors said that the rehabilitation process would take months, that I would have to learn to walk again, get used to the pain, but the worst thing was the need to come to terms with the fact that I could not cope alone. That's why Olivia was still here. That's why I let her stay. When the doctor told me that I would need constant care, the first thing I wanted to do was refuse her help. The thought that she would drag me out of bed, help me get dressed, keep track of my medications made me shudder. I didn't want to see her every day. I didn't want to feel her care. I didn't want to let her back into my life. But I knew that there was no other way out. "I'll stay with you, Lion," she said in the same tone in which she once declared that she loved me, as if it was not a question, not a request, but a fact that I would have to come to terms with. "Do you want to atone?" I hissed, not hiding my anger. She sighed, looking down. "I just can't leave you like this. We may hate each other, but I won't be able to sleep well knowing that you're here alone, chained to the bed." I gritted my teeth. "You could stop pretending. Stop pretending to be a saint. You made your choice, Olivia. So why the hell are you interfering in my life again?" She looked at me with that same tired determination that always infuriated me about her. "I'm not pretending. I know it's hard for you, and if you want, I'll leave as soon as you can cope on your own. But until that happens, I'm here." I turned away, staring at the ceiling. I hated her. I hated myself for needing her help. But what I hated most was the fact that, despite everything that had happened, her presence brought a strange, painful relief. We lived under the same roof again. But this was not the return of the family. It was a forced truce, a temporary alliance based on necessity. But one night, when I couldn't sleep because of the pain, and she sat silently next to me, stroking my hand, I suddenly realized that for the first time in a long time, I didn't want to push her away. And that scared me the most. The last months have been pure torture for me. I was chained to this damn house, to this bed, to this woman, whom I both hated and could not get out of my head. My body was recovering, but I still needed help. Olivia stayed by my side, cared for me, and no matter how hard I tried to ignore her presence, it permeated every moment of my life. I thought that all my feelings for her had burned to the ground. But the body, the damn body, lived by its own laws. I had not touched a woman since I learned of her betrayal, and although in my head I still continued to hate her, my desire was not subject to logic. It happened at night. I couldn't sleep again, but this time the reason was different. Olivia sat nearby, quietly flipping through the pages of the book. The light from the lamp softly illuminated her face, making it almost unreal. She was close, too close. I could smell her skin, her breath, the warmth of her body, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't want to pull away. I took a deep breath, my fingers involuntarily tightening on the blanket. Something hot accumulated in my chest, an animal hunger that I had been trying to suppress for so long. Olivia noticed my tension. "Are you hurt?" Her voice was quiet, caring. I looked at her, holding my gaze longer than I should have. "No, not in that sense." She blinked, studying my face, and suddenly her eyes changed. She understood. I saw how she swallowed convulsively, how her back tensed, but she did not look away. I couldn't hold back any longer. Slowly, as if testing the boundaries of what was permitted, I extended my hand and covered her palm with mine. She didn't pull away. "Lion." Her voice trembled. "Tell me you don't want this." My voice sounded hoarse. "Tell me and I'll stop." She was silent, her lips parted slightly, her breathing became deeper. The room was too quiet, the tension between us buzzing in the air. And then she leaned towards me, her lips found mine, and everything that separated us disappeared in an instant. Olivia leaned towards me, her lips touched mine, and I stopped thinking. Everything that had been accumulating in me over the past month's anger, hatred, pain, passion exploded at that moment. I didn't know what I wanted more, to punish her or to completely take possession of her so that she belonged to me as she once did. I pulled her closer to me, my fingers dug into her back, feeling her body tense. She was panting, trembling under me, but did not move away. On the contrary, she scratched my shoulders, pulled off everything that prevented her from feeling my skin. I wanted her, in a way I never wanted, greedy, rude, completely. We were one ball of pain and desire. I heard her moans, felt her nails digging into my back, her breathing ragged, and her body clinging to mine, as if atoning for guilt with every movement. We didn't talk. There was no room for words here, only for emotions, for the unbridled hunger that burned us from the inside. When it was over, I lay there, breathing heavily, trying to comprehend what had just happened. Olivia pressed herself against me, her hand slid over my chest, but I immediately pulled away. "What are you doing?" My voice sounded sharper than I expected. She raised her head, a clouded desire still remained in her eyes, but gradually it was replaced by misunderstanding. "Lion." I sat up abruptly, covering my face with my hands. "Damn, it was a mistake." She froze. "Error?" I turned to her, clenching my jaw. "Yes, this shouldn't have happened." Olivia straightened up, pulling the blanket over herself, her gaze hard. "Don't you think it's a little late for such conclusions?" I smiled, bitterly, evilly. "It's too late. Olivia, do you even realize what just happened? This isn't about forgiveness. This isn't about us. It's just instinct. We spent our whole lives building something, and then we destroyed it to hell. And you think one night can fix it?" She pursed her lips, and I saw her shoulders tense. "I don't think anything. But if you're going to hate me again for what just happened, then maybe you should ask yourself why you wanted that first." I turned away, not wanting to hear her words. "Just leave." She looked at me for a second or two and then stood up silently. I didn't watch how she collected her things, how she pulled on her robe, how she cast her last glance in my direction. When the door closed behind her, I leaned back on the pillow and stared at the ceiling. I was torn apart. After that night, I couldn't find a place for myself. My thoughts were confused, my emotions were overwhelming, and I didn't know what to do with it. Everything inside me screamed that it was a mistake, that I had allowed her into my life again, that I had given myself some slack again, but at the same time I could not ignore what I was feeling. I sat in the dark, staring into a glass of whiskey. It's a stupid habit to think that alcohol can wash away the dirt that has ingrained itself under my skin. Olivia was in the next room. She didn't try to talk to me. After what happened, after her betrayal, she understood. Her every word could become a trigger. I could leave. I could have done it a long time ago. But he didn't leave, because the hatred for her was stronger than the desire to disappear. When I was about to go out, she stood at the threshold, blocking my path. "Where are you going?" Her voice was quiet but firm. I didn't even look at her. "To hell." "Lion." I turned around so quickly that she flinched. "What do you want?" I hissed. Do you want to hear that I forgave you? That I can look into your eyes again, knowing that you spread her legs for this bastard? She bit her lip but didn't back down. I know you hate me, and you may never forgive, but I won't leave. I grinned evilly. I don't care whether you leave or not. You have already made your choice. I was wrong. I laughed out loud, but there was nothing funny in this laughter. Wrong? I stepped closer, almost close. Mistakes are when you forget to buy milk or don't call someone back, and you betrayed me. It was not a mistake, but your damn decision. She clenched her fists, and I saw her knuckles turn white. But I'm still here. My teeth clenched. How I hated her. How I wanted to smear her on this wall so that she feels at least a drop of the pain that she made me experience. But what I hated even more was that it didn't matter long for her. I stepped forward. She didn't move. Her breathing became ragged. You know that I can never forget. My voice was low, hoarse, filled with what was burning me from the inside. I'm not asking you to forget, she whispered. I want you to look at me again. And I looked. The next seconds were a blur. My fingers are in her hair. Her moan as I forcefully pressed her into the wall. Her nails are scratching my skin. It wasn't love. There was no redemption. It was battle, revenge, anger. And the next morning, I woke up again in the void. I tried to focus on rehab, but every workout, every step I took, brought me back to thinking about her. Olivia was nearby. She looked after me, helped me, endured my anger, my silence. And I saw that she was waiting. She waited for me to decide something. One day, when she, as usual, was sitting in a chair by the window, leafing through a book, I could not stand it. Why are you here, Olivia? My voice was even, but everything was boiling inside. She raised her head. Her gaze was tired but firm. I've already answered that question. I'm not going to leave you. I clenched my fists. Do you understand that this doesn't change what happened? We can't just erase everything like nothing happened. She looked down, thought for a second, and then quietly said, I know, and I'm not asking you to forget. I want to try again, not because I'm afraid of loneliness, and not because I need redemption, but because, despite everything, I still love you. I felt something tremble inside. I wanted to push her words away, call it a lie, tell her she just didn't want to feel guilty. But the truth was that I loved her too. Despite the pain, despite the betrayal, despite all these months of hatred and anger, I still couldn't imagine my life without her. The next day, I called my lawyer. Cancel the divorce. When I hung up, Olivia was standing in the doorway. She didn't ask what I did. She just looked at me, and I saw hope in her eyes. It was no longer a habit. It wasn't an addiction. It was a conscious choice. I look at them, at Olivia and Emma sitting on the sofa, and I understand that all this was not in vain. I remember everything: pain, betrayal, rage, despair. But now, at this moment, I see in front of me not the woman I hated, and not the family I considered destroyed. Our house is now filled with the laughter of not only Emma, but also our grandchildren who run around the rooms, filling them with joy and new meaning. Olivia has changed. She broke ties with Lauren, the one who once pushed her to betrayal, and said that she no longer wanted people in her life who could destroy her family. I see what we fought for. Olivia tells Emma something, and she laughs, clinging to her. I find myself smiling. This is not a big ending, not a stormy reconciliation, not a scene from a movie where everything ends perfectly. This is life, just the way she is, with scars, with pain, with memories that cannot be erased. But there is a place for us in this life. I get up, slowly walk over, and sit down next to him. Olivia looks at me, holds her breath for a second, and then puts her hand on my knee. I don't remove it. Emma turns to me. Dad, why are you so thoughtful? I smile, just thinking how lucky I am. She frowns. With what? I look at her, then at Olivia. With the fact that I have a place to return to. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.